Realty Nation, it's Avi Goldhar. Welcome to the Think Realty podcast. It's going to be an awesome one today. We're learning about why the follow-up, if you're not following up right now, why it's so crucial to do that. All right, like I cannot explain, even to you pro real estate investors out there, but like how important it is to continuously follow up and not give up after 2 or 3 times, right? Do whatever it takes. So anyway, I can yell at you about this all day long, but my good friend Danny Johnson, he's going to be yelling at you with me, and it's going to be a fantastic time. We'll hear a little bit about his successes and what he's working on and the entire flipping junkie journey that he's been on. So that's going to be a lot of fun. He's our main guest today. But before we get to Danny, I need to give a big shout out to Real Property Management, which is the sponsor of today's podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Real Property Management, which is the largest residential property management franchise in North America, managing tens of thousands of properties for individuals, investors, and institutions throughout the country. You can learn more at realpropertymgt.com or call them at 888-806-7088. And then after Danny, we'll talk about how COVID-19 is affecting landlords across the country. It's a very recent article on thinkrealty.com that I want to just chat about for a few minutes. Let's go ahead and get the show started. Danny, welcome to the show, man. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too. Thanks a lot for having me on.
You got it. So give us a little background, kind of 1-2 punch. I scattered your bio a little bit. Host of the Flipping Junkie podcast. People can find you on the Flipping Junkie Facebook page, but you've done a lot in the real estate investing space, and you've been of service to a lot of investors nationally. So give us a little background of who you are and what you do.
Sure. At first, I wanted to yell at the audience about following up because you said we were both going to do that, and I don't typically yell, so I wanted to see
yell at the top of your lungs,
Danny.
Danny.
Why aren't you following up?
There
How come
you
you're not following up? Come on, do it.
That's right.
All right. So hopefully that didn't
Busa.
spike the audio.
Yes.
But, all right. Cool. Okay. So yeah, that was fun. All right. Good way to start it. Yeah. 2003, I got into real estate investing, flipping houses. My father was doing it. I saw how much fun he was having. And just like felt like deep down, like that's what I want to do. I want to be around town doing deals and just having a lot of fun with that real estate business. And it was more of a game, a big numbers game. And so I was part-time for 3 years, couldn't leave the security of the job, that steady paycheck, even though I was losing money by staying there. But I was still I needed to be fired from the job to go full-time into the business. So that was good. Went through crash of 08. That was interesting. Had to change strategies. The people I looked up to, my mentor in the flipping business was even telling me, maybe it's time to go get a job. There's no shame in getting a job. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, I'm unemployable at this point.
Yeah.
Like there's no way. Like I'm just going to find a way and I'm going to scrap through it. So we had a lot of fun, changing strategy, starting getting owner financing back then. And, selling the notes as soon as we closed on them. That's how we made it through that. 2012, things were picking up. We started building the business up. And, over the next couple years, we started building a team and, scaling it up. It wasn't going to be just me and my wife at the time, doing everything still, because we did that for 10 plus years where we were wearing all the hats. I wasn't doing construction or anything. We had a crew for that and had an agent to sell properties, but we were still doing a whole lot. And I had already started working on the software. And so Flipping Junkie started in 2010. So timeline's getting jumped around here. I'm gonna try to make this quick because usually I spend about an hour talking about all this. 2010 started Flipping Junkie because I went and took flying lessons and, all my time got devoted to that. I was just so excited about learning how to fly. It was just like I was getting into house flipping, where I just like that became everything. That's all I ever wanted to talk about. Same thing happened with the flying. And my business kind of suffered and I needed some motivation and accountability to build my business back up back in 2010. And so I started Flipping Junkie. And what I did was I saw that, for blogs and TV shows and all that stuff back then, you either had, like the TV shows where they would show the fix up of the house. Like, hey, today we're doing demo. Tomorrow we're doing, sheetrock and then trim and painting and all that kind of stuff. They just show you the rehab. The other end of the spectrum on the blogs was people that were talking about, the strategy. Okay, here's how you drive for dollars. Here's how you you do direct mail, stuff like that. But there was nobody really showing the whole spectrum of A to B of what are people doing to get these deals? How are they analyzing them? How are they buying them? And then what are they spending to fix it up and then selling it? So it's like the whole process wasn't there. So I used that as an opportunity to have accountability, because if I was going to get on and tell people every week, here's the marketing I did, exactly what I did, the bandit signs, the billboards I got, the newspaper ad that I had, the yellow pages ad, all that kind of stuff. And it was to hold me accountable. I was saying I was going to do that marketing next week. I was going to do this marketing. And as the calls started coming in, I said, oh, it'd be cool to document every single call so that people could see what it was like to get these leads coming in, why the people were wanting to sell, how much they were asking, whether or not I went to see the house, whether there was potential there, what I offered. And long story short, pretty much my business as I grew it back up. And I think that was a span of 34 weeks. I documented every single week. And it was like 495 leads that I documented, and then the deals that I did from that. So it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. That became the Flipping Houses Exposed book. And, a lot of people have gotten into the business and told me that that book helped them do that. And the big thing about it was it showed that it was truly a numbers game, because they saw every time I would get so many leads, and how many of them I just say next, 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 instead of trying to force that non-deal into some sort of deal and trying to get creative. And, it was just, my strategy was simple, and it was just buy low.
And
so if I couldn't buy low, I didn't want it.
Yeah, and there's so many strategies that you can deploy too, right? It's very difficult to go down that rabbit hole. Okay, if this doesn't work, then maybe some type of creative financing, where there's seller carry, and then you can do this, and you can create a note, and then you can sell that. You can sell a partial of that, and like that can get really confusing. Keep it simple.
Yeah, keeping it simple. And if I found myself trying to force a deal into a deal, it's because I didn't have enough leads. Then it was like, I'm going to go back and get.
Yeah.
I just need to get more coming in. And it was interesting, because looking back at it, I think my lead to deal conversion ratio was it was pretty horrendous back then. So growing the business after that, and still buying low, but having a team do the lead intake and the acquisitions and follow up. So that's what we're getting into now is how, when you're doing everything yourself or with one partner, the follow-up tends to be the thing that doesn't happen, because it's so hard to keep up with. And, especially when you're beginning or you are doing it by yourself, that's the thing that you got to do. Because if I just say, and what I was doing then was just more leads, more leads, more leads. What I should have been doing was saying, okay, yeah, more leads, but also part of the week, I'm going to spend following up on all these other leads. I mean, heck, 495 leads in the 34 weeks, I should have done way more deals. And had I stuck with the follow-up, I bet I would have done probably, maybe I would have doubled the amount of deals or more that I did from those same leads.
So with the leads, with the 495 leads, for example, help me quantify that. How many follow-ups did you do versus the number of follow-ups you should have done to get more deals out of that original kind of list? And I'm putting you on the spot here, but now I'm curious. Now you piqued my interest. I'm like, did he just follow up once? Or like, did he follow up 3 times?
It's pretty much like, if there was any possibility of a deal, I probably followed up maybe once or twice. And then, I'm having to handle the new leads coming in, go to look at those properties, the follow-up. There was no, my strategy at the time was like the notebook. Like I just had my notebook where a new lead got written down right there. And then if I was following up, I'd flip 2 pages and put call so-and-so. And it just was not just very smart and effective system for the business.
So now I'm assuming you have a better system.
Yes.
And you have more follow-ups than you do than just the original 1 or 2. And wholesalers especially fall into this category, right? You'll go buy a list from whatever, listsource.com as an example, right? You have your entire list, and you get so excited. You're like, okay, I've got the logo, I've got the website, I've got everything. I've been so diligent in creating my brand. Now I have 5,000 leads. Awesome, this is great. And you follow up with like maybe 10% of them, and you only follow up maybe 1.5 times, because you know how that goes, right? You'll follow up the first time, and then you'll get to like more leads coming in, so you forget to write the rest of the email and hit send on the previous email campaign for the 500, and then you just lose track. And
Yeah.
then you wake up 6 months later with no activity, wondering what the heck has even been going on this entire time.
Yeah, and I think that, I think we play games with ourselves by making assumptions in a lot of this.
Yeah.
Because we got to look at really why, sometimes it's the system and it's just too busy, right? We're too busy and we don't. But I think we all, I can't say we, I'm going to say for myself, I felt like, I would start to, like, if I called and followed up and they told me, yeah, thanks, but we're just not interested, you know, being lazy, my mind was like, okay, well, they're not going to change their mind. So
Right.
no need to follow up anymore.
Right.
You know what is the mind doesn't know what that person's thinking, what the situation for them is going to be in 1 month.
Yep.
And so we got to be careful about assumptions that we make. And if we called them and followed up and they seemed annoyed, we don't know what they were dealing with when they took that call. They might not even be annoyed with you. It's somebody else.
Right.
But
They
either
could have been
way-
changing a dirty diaper, right? Like, you
Right.
don't know.
Right.
Right.
Or had a tenant call and say, hey, we can't make rent.
Right.
And, which is going to lead to motivation, right? So
Yeah.
they could be frustrated with them, but you assumed they were frustrated with you and you said, I'm not going to follow up again because I don't want to piss them off.
Right.
You just don't know. And I hear about that with like doing the automated too, the campaigns where text and emails and stuff going out. People are like, well, that's going to be spammy. They're going to not like me. They're not going to want to sell to me. They're going to get pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
And that again is an assumption, right? Like if you do it the right way and you personalize those messages and not send them every single day and just have some tact and make sure that it's going out in a good way that doesn't seem so automated, it's going to help you tremendously. And, the thing is, it's always about time, right? Because time is the thing that ends up motivating people because their situations change. Yeah. And it's not that you have to follow up 10 times because that 10 message or 10 touch is the magic one that every other one built up to and got them slightly more interested each time. It wasn't that at all. It's just that your message happens to hit them at that moment where they say, oh, you know what? Yeah, I do need to do something about this property, or I do need to do something about this tenant that's tearing up the house, won't get out. And, I don't really want to deal with evicting because they're family or something. It's all that kind of thing happens. So it's really just being there at the time that it happens, and you don't know when that's going to be. I like to think back to this one house that I spent, I think it was 8 years doing follow-up.
Jeez.
And the only reason I didn't do all of them like
8
that,
years.
This one was special because it was like a driving for dollars one in a historic area. And I liked this house a lot. And, the guy would talk to me. I would send letters to him and he would call me and, oh, well, my daughter doesn't want me to sell it and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And so I would just say, well, do you mind if I follow up with you again, later? And maybe 6 months later, I would think about it and I would send that letter to him. Well, 8 years goes by and I probably hadn't reached out to him maybe 3 years at this point. So I stopped after maybe 5. He calls me up though and he says, hey, yeah, I want to sell that house now.
Okay.
And so I say, well, I'll meet you in the morning. He says, yeah, my daughter's ready for me to sell it. She's okay with it. She'll meet us there. And,
wow.
I'll never forget too, because he was so excited about selling that. I think that, while I was waiting in the front yard with his daughter, this old red truck comes barreling down the road through this neighborhood, jumps the curb up into the front yard and comes to like a skid. And he gets out, just this Texas guy. He's just like,
right.
How's it going? Like it was nothing that he just jumped the curb into the front yard, of this home that's like a $500,000 home. It's pretty incredible. But
wow.
Yeah. So
and that's what it takes.
Was top of mind because nobody else had ever spent that much time following up. Maybe they sent letters, but they only sent one.
Right. So let's talk about the system and processes here. Right. How do you do that? And you're one of the few people that I know in the entire industry, and I've been following you for the last couple of years, that is really like finished out an end-to-end system for investors to use to attract people, to take them through the next steps, because that's the hardest part for people to figure out, right? It's like, okay, how many stages do we have, and how do we make all this look pretty and also functional for the end user? Help me understand the system and process behind, say, Lead Propeller or even Flip Pilot, and some of the things that you're doing now to help me as either a new investor or a pro investor shore up my systems so that this flows naturally instead of having to really force it through a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we've done was Lead Propeller is the real estate investor websites,
Yeah.
right? So if you have that set up, it's got all the content and everything,
Yeah.
and you choose a domain name and it sets everything up. And so you have it all there within minutes instead of having to come up with what it all should say. It's already SEO optimized, all that kind of stuff. So you can send traffic and your direct mail can have people go to your website. And so what happens then when if they fill out that form or they call you, right? You need to capture that in some way that's not going to be manual, not where it just ends up in your email or something like that. So what we did with Flip Pilot is we set it up to where those leads can come straight from a website, even if you're not using Lead Propeller or any other website, can come straight into the system and can notify you through a text and things like that that you got a new lead. And the same thing with calls. So Flip Pilot integrates with CallRail, which is an incredible system. And any call that comes in can create that new lead if it's a new number. It's not for an existing one that's already in your system. And then you get notified as well. So of course you can get the call, but if you have a team, you won't know about the call because it went to somebody else in your team. But then you'll know when Flip Pilot notifies you there's a new one there. And so what Flip Pilot is it's a way for those leads to come into the system automatically. And then it's a workflow, it's a pipeline. So if you've ever used Trello or something like that, it'll be very familiar because we wanted something visual. And it's like a sales pipeline, right? So you have columns that mimic your workflow for whatever you do. So you customize it to like have the new lead on the left, right? And then if you're trying to make contact with them, you can drag them over to the next column if you have a contact not made column. And then when you set the appointment, you put it into appointment, and it just moves through your workflow until it's a done deal and you profit from it. But that way, every time you go into your system at a glance, sort of like what we did was mimic the whiteboard. So most real
That's
estate
awesome.
investors that are doing deals and stuff have that whiteboard, right? So why not have something visually like that? And that's what we did. So it's really cool to be able to go in and see, here's what I'm working, here's where it's at. And then the follow-up, the automated follow-up moves it off of that pipeline into the background.
Yeah.
Because you're not actively working that until they respond to you again to one of those automated follow-ups. Then you bring it back into something you're working on the pipeline. So
that's right.
It's just super simple.
And if you're watching this and you're feeling a little intimidated with the words, right? Like workflow and process and stage and pipeline and sales, and don't be, because it's not as complicated as you think, right? You think about your stage. You think about somebody calls in, what happens after they call in? Maybe the stage changes from your call to email campaign, or let's say you're sending out a mailer. And then what happens after that? Then there's going to be some kind of communication, and then an offer goes out, right? That's exactly the system that Danny is talking about that he's designed, which is incredible because now you're walking into something that's already built that you don't have to build anymore. And on his website, there are how-tos and a bunch of different resources that you can use to learn this system and then become familiar with it overnight so that it's less intimidating. And for me, a process guy, and for Danny, a process guy, we're both tech geeks and software geeks, and we're going to talk after this too, because I need to pick your brain about stuff. This is the world that we live in to help your life become significantly easier. So you're focused on one thing, right? The one mission, the one goal is to take a cold lead into a hot lead into a closed deal. And that's what's really, really important. So Danny, we've covered a lot of things in this show, and we need to have you back again because this entire sales process, design, workflow component is so crucial. It's like measuring twice and cutting once, or sharpening the axe as you're chopping wood, right? Like it's a really, really integral part of a real estate investor's timeline. We have to put in the time, and we have to do that. So if I want to get in touch, how do I start and continue the conversation with you?
Yeah, sure. So the best place is Facebook, the Flipping Junkie group. Go there and ask for an invite, and check out flippilot.com. And we're going to be launching a free account. So with a lot of the COVID stuff and trying to help people out, and a lot of new investors, I feel like, don't get into a system because they see the cost of paying $100, $150 a month for a system. They're thinking, well, I'm not having leads come in So it doesn't make sense for me to have a system. And so we're actually launching a free account starting on the 27th of May. And so that people can have that, because for new people, it's like if you get the system and the goal becomes, I just want to put stuff in this new column. I want leads coming in, and then have a system for making sure I do the most with those leads as I move them through. And then this way they can do that with the free account, not have to pay anything for it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So that's flippilot.com?
Right.
Sweet. All right. I'm going to check it out. I'm signing up for my free account. This is going to be great.
Yeah, 27. Yeah.
Well, cool. Danny, thanks a lot for the time. I appreciate it. And especially breaking down these concepts of workflows and pipelines and how things work, but more importantly, helping us reinforce the fact that we need to continue to follow up, as in your 8-year example. And sometimes that's what it takes. And if you're not willing to do what it takes, then really the question is, how committed are you to being a real estate investor? And that's something else that we have to ask ourselves. So Danny, thanks a lot for the time. I certainly appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it. And this next segment is brought to you by Realty Real Estate Investments, your premier source for cash flow investment property. Check them out at www.turnkeyrealestateinvestments.com. So let's jump right into it. What's happened as a result? All right, this is just going to take another minute and a half or two. What has happened as a result of COVID-19? Number one, Zoom has become really popular. All right, that's like where everything's happening right now. See, I'm the kind of guy that's going to wear boxer briefs and just like a suit and tie, and that's it, right? Because it's just like from waist on up. So that's happening. That's me, and I love it, right? It's just nice and easy breezy, right? That's super, super happy with now the Zoom lifestyle. So I've gotten accustomed to that. I'm sure y'all have gotten accustomed to that, but that's what's happening. Right? Commercial property is changing a little bit. That entire game is changing. So something to pay attention to. Maybe there's an opportunity there. There will be discounted properties available as a result of COVID-19. That's already kind of a given. And this is, if you go to thinkrealty.com and check it out, the editorial staff wrote this article. This was on May 4th. Quote, "There's good news for investors in all this for discounted properties. Owners who may have been collecting only a portion of rents because of some type of workout that they've had with their tenants, they probably don't want the headache anymore." I get it, right? Like, you might be a tired, frustrated landlord. Isn't that opportunity for investors like you and me to take advantage of? Yeah, heck yeah. So you have to read this article. There's something else that I appreciate that this article talks about, which is an increase in foreclosures. There's a J.P. Morgan Chase chief economist that said that the total number of foreclosures post-COVID won't be as high as what we saw in 2008 at 1.6, 1.7 million, but they will be in the range of between 1.1 and 1.2 million foreclosures. That's real, folks. So there's also opportunity there. So put on your 2008, 2009 thinking hats and see how you can help out homeowners in crisis, because it's happening. That's the show for today. You want to get in touch, go to thinkrealty.com. You have Danny's information. You have my information. You can find me anywhere online at Abhi Golhar. My favorite 2 channels right now, Instagram and LinkedIn. So check me out there. And let's start the conversation. If you are interested in talking about the strategy for your area, let's do it. Let's talk about it, and let's make you the next level investor you want to be. This podcast overall has been brought to you by Real Property Management, the largest residential property management franchise in North America, managing tens of thousands of properties for individuals, investors, and institutions throughout the country. You can learn more at realpropertymgt.com or call 888-806-7088. Think Realty Nation, that's the show. Get in touch. You know how to do it. Until next time, happy investing.